Brought to you by Pentz Homes and part of the Hitting the Hardwood podcast network. This is Lynx Happy Hour. Yo, what up, what's happening, Lynx fans? Welcome back and welcome into another episode of Lynx Happy Hour. 2 happy hours in 2 days. That's living in luxury. This is the second episode of the week, my interview with Pat BORZI. I was originally just going to have one episode with one segment for Sabrina and then another segment for Pat, but both interviews were just so good and I didn't want to make one episode too long, so you get two. Double the episodes, double the fun. Can't be mad at that. So Pat and I, we recorded this on Wednesday, June 10th, going up today, Thursday, June 11th. Gotta love it when there's a few games in between, or a few days in between games here to catch up on all things podcasting and writing and all the fun stuff. So Pat and I talked all things Lynx from the blowout win against the Wings, but also Pat has been covering this team much longer than I have, so shout out to him. We go down memory lane a bit, talk about this in regards to other Cheryl Reeve seasons. Pat's first published article about the Lynx was published in 2010, the very first season of the Cheryl Reeve era. So Pat's got a lot of wisdom and just knowledge to give on the subject, and yeah, we'll definitely have him back on for more because I know there's more stories and anecdotes and things like that we want to get to. But yeah, so just love Pat coming on. Thank you to him. Follow all his stuff at MinPost. Follow him on Twitter as well. Yeah, and hope you guys enjoy this conversation with Pat BORZI. Pat BORZI here on Lynx Happy Hour right after the break. Stick around. This episode of Lynx Happy Hour is brought to you by Pentz Homes. The team at Pentz Homes has experience working with first-time home buyers, folks selling their first home and buying their next place, to people looking to downsize. With the best tools, technology, and trusted vendors to help with any home project, Pentz Homes is a top choice for buyers and sellers. For more info and to set up a time to meet with Nate and the team to talk about your home buying or selling needs, visit pentzhomes.com. That is Pentz, PENTZHOMES.com. All right, very excited for today's guest on Lynx Happy Hour, making a well overdue Lynx Happy Hour debut. My colleague on the beat from MinPost, Mr. Pat BORZI. Pat, thank you so much for being here. How's it going? How are you doing today? This is the day after a pretty impressive victory by the Lynx over the Dallas Wings. Has the shock and awe of their plus 81 point Commissioner's Cup differential worn off yet?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Terry. It's nice to be here. I think it's fair to say that pretty much everything that the Lynx have done this year was unexpected and surprising, even to some of us who think we know something about basketball. And we can probably get into a little bit more of how little we actually know. But they did some things last night. I mean, Dallas is a pretty good team. I mean,
Yeah.
they've got some nice players, and they just basically blew them out of the building.
Hmm.
They hit a couple of, what Page was better in the second half and kind of kept the score from getting completely ridiculous. But
Hmm.
um, the Lynx did so much right, and Dallas just looked really discombobulated for the whole night. And they don't really defend the paint very well, so it was a pretty
Right.
bad matchup right there
Hmm.
that the Lynx took advantage of. But it's not like Dallas is a bunch of stiffs. They got good players,
No.
and
Hmm.
the Lynx just dominated them last night. It was really something.
Yeah, I think there's a combination of the Lynx are a bad matchup for Dallas, just given how effective they can be in the paint. And I mean, if Dallas had a whack Kuer available, I think that would help. I don't know if that's the total answer. They don't protect the paint very well. We also could see from Natasha Howard when we talked to her post game, like, you gotta have your eyes big when you're a player like her. It's against a team like that, just knowing that the ball's coming and you're gonna have space to operate down there. Um, as we talk now, on Wednesday, June 10th in the afternoon, the Lynx are 10-2, first in the league, first in Commissioner's Cup, first in pretty much every damn category you can think of. And I think sort of the narrative around this team entering the season was one of the Lynx are going to take a step back. Even maybe the most generous national coverage was like, well, don't count out Cheryl Reeve. Once Fee comes back, they'll work their way back into the mix and be relevant come playoff time. Well, without Fee, they've been pretty good. And I think all of us locally were kind of like, yeah, I mean, they'll be pretty good, but I don't know that we were even expecting this. And though I wouldn't expect her to admit it, I don't think Cheryl was quite expecting this, as she was a fairly conservative in kind of the big picture talk. She compared this training camp to 2023, which was a team that started 0-6. After the season started, she said we were still in extended training camp mode, which is not something I've heard her say before. You've covered this team significantly longer than I have over at MinPost. So I'm just curious if like this start is reminiscent of other starts in the Cheryl Reeve era, where it's pretty clear right away that the team is pretty damn good, but maybe that wasn't the national expectation going into the season.
Yeah, well, I think there are a lot of different pieces to this, Terry. And maybe we should let your audience, who is like, who's this weird old guy that's talking here? Um, I've been around the Lynx since I think the first story I wrote about him from MinPost was 2010.
Mhm,
And I also did quite a bit of coverage for ESPNW when that entity actually existed,
mhm,
and the New York Times when they actually had their own sports section
mhm,
throughout the championship years. I mean, our colleague Charles Holman of the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder is rightly the guy who's been around forever, the dean of the beat, but I've been
mhm,
around enough to see some pretty good basketball. To answer your question, this sort of looks like some of the starts during the championship years.
mhm,
Um, but I think the surprise is because a lot of us who think we know something about basketball and think we know uh, I think we know a lot. This is one of those years where all of us kind of really, we don't really know anything, because
mhm,
part of it is every single team had their chemistry disrupted because just about everybody was a free agent.
mhm,
So there were going to be changes on every team, even the ones that were really, really good. What Cheryl and her staff really need to should get a lot of credit for, and it's not just Cheryl. She doesn't do this alone.
mhm,
She's got the assistant coaches. They have analytics people on the staff. They have a lot of very smart people that are involved with this. Okay,
mhm,
have for a long time. Um, what they do is they watch film and they study analytics and they try to figure out who are some underrepresented players, underappreciated players. Not I hate to use underrated because that's kind of a bogus term, but underappreciated free agents and folks that they can get in trade, that they can bring in here and fit the culture, the style, and the way they want to play. And they've done a terrific job. Again, as they did 2 years ago when they brought in Courtney and they brought in Alana Smith. And let's face it,
mhm,
two players coming from Chicago, a team that was terrible. It was like, what's this about? And they turned out, I mean, Alana was a terrific rim protector. And then Courtney playing out of position at the point um, gave them not just the mid-range jumper and some defense, but also that little bit of edge,
yeah.
that team really, really needed. It was a nice team, a lot of nice players. They needed somebody that was, would make a basket and turn to the crowd, somebody
Mhm,
who would be the first person in the scrum during a fight, that
mhm,
kind of person. Uh, and that was because they did all the analytics and they figured out these were players that were kind of undervalued. And they've done the same thing this time. And Olivia Miles, here's the other thing that dumb guys like me forget. And I actually wrote this on myself because a lot of us, including and I was one of them, that said, "Hey, they should draft Lauren Betts. They need a big, they need some rebounding help." But what we all forgot, is that really, really good point guard just makes everybody around you better. You know how the,
Yeah.
the rising tide lifts all boats?
Hmm.
Really good point guard is that rising tide. Just as I mean, it took 2 years for Lindsay when she got here to really lift that team because they didn't have the full complement of players yet. I mean, they had some good players, they didn't have enough. Um, Miles is walking into a situation where she and Natasha Howard, and Howard showed up late to camp,
Hmm.
and they developed that pick and roll chemistry seemingly in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And the underappreciated part about Natasha Howard is she's got those sticky hands that Miles talks about. She can catch anything and has. The story that I wrote about Miles for Min Post, I asked Howard if she had ever developed that chemistry with other players, other point guards. And she
Hmm.
mentioned three great ones: Sue Bird, Sabrina Ionescu, and Whalen.
Hmm.
Uh, that's some pretty damn good company.
Yeah.
So I think we were all surprised, but we're all surprised but I would also say that pretty much every team was in that kind of scramble mode.
Hmm.
And it would be really, and I could also see why Cheryl was a little hesitant too. I mean, she didn't know what she had, and she made that pretty clear right from day one. And what she found very quickly is that they had people that could attack the rim, which they really haven't had before, and that's a big help because
Hmm.
analytically, what's the best shot? The best shot's a layup. The
Hmm.
second best shot's a three. So now they have a team that can do both and they can defend and overall not a bad rebounding team. So
Yeah.
they've positioned themselves really, really well in the early going. I mean, that's kind of a long, rambling answer that I hope hasn't
Yeah.
chased anybody away yet. Stick with us, it'll get better.
Right.
Uh, but I think that's what we've got going on here.
For sure. This is a long, rambly podcast, Pat. So this is
Okay,
this is
well,
not episode one. The listeners know what they're getting, and
all right,
they're here, and the Lynx fans always show up. So,
all right.
yeah, no, I agree with that too, and I think the subtle change of just Courtney playing more of the two than the one. Obviously, she can play if they're trying to guard Miles 94 feet. She can bring the ball up, initiate the offense when Miles needs a break, and I really like the way Cheryl's staggered substitutions and lineups this year. It feels like she's just tried a bunch of different stuff, and most of it's worked. But
Yeah,
the presence of Courtney to be shooting what she shoots from the mid range as well, the Lynx are dangerous from every spot on the floor, and that's also I hate to always make MNBA comparisons, but one of my frustrations with watching the men these days is just like mid range is dead. That no one's trying to do anything in that part of the floor, and it's just we're throwing the ball back and forth from the paint to the three, from the paint to the three, and it's repetitive. So I enjoy like the ball movement when literally okay they could be attacking from any spot, and I know there's people who will cringe a little bit when Courtney's putting the ball up 1 foot inside the 3 point line, but like it's a good shot if it goes in, and it's going in for her a lot right now. Um, on Miles, um, like you meant, good on you for owning up to saying the team should take Lauren Betts. I felt like 1,000 people were saying that, and now it's like now you look and everyone's claiming to have been on the Miles train.
no,
Um,
all of us have said Lauren Betts, every single one of us. And
right.
I'll cop to it. I'll cop to it for as long as Miles is playing. I was an idiot. I screwed up. They should have taken Miles all along.
Right. The transparency of course, yeah. We're talking now about and it's the just over a quarter through the season, so it's still early, but the sample size isn't small anymore. And it's not our job to anoint an MVP or all stars this early, but that is the world we live in and the conversation we're having. Do you think she sort of played her way into that first team all W MVP conversation 12 games into her young career?
I think it's a little early to kind of go there because there's a lot. We've just started going down the trail.
Yep.
I will say, and this is no great revelation, that certainly at this point she's established herself as the player to catch for Rookie of the Year. I think I'm going to be really interested to see. And I know Cheryl has said, and we can see this when we play when the team plays, is that teams are starting to game plan for her now.
Hmm.
Uh, it is going to be interesting to see the first team that stops her because
Hmm.
somebody will. I mean, somebody will figure out a way to stop her.
Yeah.
There'll be a game when she's going to get 6 points and shoot 3 for 14 and have 6 turnovers. It's just going to happen. And then how did that defense look? How did they take her out of her game? And what is her what is her counter to that? What is her adjustment to that? I'm interested to see that because on the night that she does not have one of these great games, what's the rest of the team do?
Hmm.
Do they still win it? Do they figure out a way?
Yeah.
I think it was interesting the night that they shot out, and I forget. You tell me which opponent it was. I'm drawing a blank here, but the night that Miles shot the 8 threes.
That was Golden State.
Okay,
But
yeah,
I think that was the strategy. They just went under every single screen and she shot 8 of 11 from three.
exactly right. Yeah, I mean, and that was that I think was a significant victory for the Lynx because it showed that because they had to find a different way to win, and
Hmm.
the championship teams always do. They don't just win one way. Teams that win one way also tend to lose in multiple ways because that gets stopped. You can't do that every night. Um,
Hmm.
and so I'm curious to see that. I don't like. I know it's great conversation, and social media
Right.
has all kinds of fun with it. Um, but I think it's way early to start talking about first team whatever, and let's get a little longer. Let's go a little farther down the trail before we start talking about that stuff.
Yeah.
At least to
All
me, anyway.
fair, fair and rational.
Yeah,
Um, how interested are you in this upcoming game with the Aces? I mean, it's the defending champs on their home floor, and I'd say, I mean, going into the last night, I think you certainly can make an argument that the Wings have been the second best team in the WNBA this year. I think the only problem with that is two of those games they've played have been against the Lynx. Lynx and Aces haven't played yet.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't put too much stock into one game, but obviously a lot of what came to fruition last year could have been viewed through the lens of the Lynx and their matchups with the Aces. So we get Lynx versus Aces, Cheryl versus Becky, two of the great coaches for the first time this season. Just what are you expecting out of this first matchup between them this Saturday?
A very, very physical game, and I'm really curious to see how it's officiated.
Yeah.
I don't usually like to talk about the officiating because that often is a distraction from the actual play. I
Hmm.
think we all know what the deal is. But I think that it'll be very physical. I
Hmm.
mean, it was very physical the first time, well, even in preseason when Vegas played Dallas and Alana got her nose broken.
Yeah.
Uh, they're gonna lay bodies on people, and we're gonna see how this goes. It's kind of interesting too that maybe it's only interesting to me, but I thought that Cheryl should have gotten more Coach of the Year votes last year because the fact that they beat Vegas by 50 some odd points on that floor and it pissed them off so much that they won like 16 in a row. I
Hmm.
mean, Cheryl basically motivated two teams, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, who else did that?
Yeah.
Becky didn't do it.
Hmm.
I mean, she probably eventually did it. Becky's a really, really good coach. And I'm
Hmm.
being a wise guy on this, but when you think
Yeah.
about it, that was the thing that really got them rolling
Hmm.
to another championship. Uh, and anytime you play the defending champs, you know it's going to be a fight. So, yeah, it'll be physical. I'm curious how it's officiated, and I'm curious to see how they defend Miles.
Yeah, that will be super interesting. And yeah, Greg, I did vote for Cheryl for Coach of the Year last year because I thought it was even better than 2024 when she won it, and like the way the team played without fee, and it was a number one team in 1,000 different categories.
Yeah.
I didn't take like, yeah, how much credit? I wonder, did Becky send Cheryl thank you card or anything after the 53-point beatdown? For,
Yeah, I'm
so
going.
sometimes the opposing coach can do things for your team that you can't.
Yeah, I'm going with no, but
Right.
it probably didn't. And she probably reminded them of it on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
And whatever you got to do to motivate a team,
Hmm.
have at it.
For sure. And yeah, just real quick, it was the reason you mentioned guys like us who don't know anything about basketball, the argument for Natalie
I'm not
Nakasa,
including you
who
in this. I'm just saying, hey,
I mean, just
I'm
us
not, I'm
in
not, I'm
general.
not bringing
Us,
anybody else
right,
on this sinking lifeboat.
right.
I'm happy to take the shot
Right.
here.
But just, it comes up where like, oh, you had to give Natalie Nakasa Coach of the Year because the Valkyries were supposed to be bad. And I'm just like, well, no, you thought they were going to be bad. Not you specifically, Pat, but just the
Yeah.
general public thought the Valkyries were bad. Like Natalie Nakasa is a great coach and had a plan and it worked. And yeah, that's great. I'm obviously not going to poke holes in a very well deserving Coach of the Year award for her last year. But I'm like, why is it just relative to expectation for all of these awards? But that's not what what we're
Yeah,
here.
well, that's pretty much how it works in every sport.
It is,
It's
yeah.
where it's worked on the men's side forever. You got a baseball team that's supposed to finish last
Hmm.
and they make the playoffs. Well, that manager is probably going to be the manager of the year. And
Yeah,
the coaches that are consistently good, whose teams are consistently championship material, often don't get honored as often as as coaches from teams that are so
yeah,
little expected.
yeah.
So that's part of the deal. I mean,
Hmm.
certainly Cheryl last year deserved recognition and deserved Coach of the Year votes. And you didn't ask me this question, but I
Right.
think it's still kind of early. But I think that when you look at what's going on in the league, Cheryl might be the front runner for Coach of the Year at this point.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know who else you even put there, but as you
Yeah.
mentioned,
And again, we got a
just got on
long
the
way to
trails.
go.
Yeah,
We got a long way to go, and we'll see where this all ends up. But I think certainly the fact that they're sitting where they're sitting at 10-2
right. Hmm.
um, is certainly an accomplishment.
Right. They're also playing so much differently than than they have the past couple of years, and part of that is necessity. The Lynx roster got gutted, which Cheryl, one of the things she said in the offseason was like that didn't catch anyone by surprise. They always knew that when this new CBA hit at the same time that an expansion draft hit, this was going to happen to teams. And it is a testament to where the Lynx have been that the entire starting five from last season is on some version of a max contract somewhere.
Yeah,
One team can't pay all five starters max deals because,
correct.
especially when you're going to be without one of them for a good chunk of the season. Um, but I think what Cheryl's done really well, and you who've been writing on the link since 2010 and the entire Cheryl Reeve era, is having a way of doing things. Like it's not just, oh, anyone can come, anyone can fit in, like real players coach kind of thing, but she's shown herself to be very nimble and very adaptable. And when new players come in, I kind of always ask them like what the experience is, like whether that's be switching teams mid-season, coming in late in training camp. And they almost always say some version of Cheryl Sid just to go play and have joy in your basketball and like let us worry about the other stuff. And so I think what I've always known she was good at, but I think she's showing is maybe she's the best ever at is adapting the system to personnel to get the best out of whatever the personnel she's afforded. And there's been years, 2014, a year they didn't get it, they didn't get to they didn't win the championship, but they got they got there. Um, and had a great season. They had to play a lot without Rebecca Brunson. That changed their approach early in the season. So just I'm wondering if like I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, but just of like other seasons where there was kind of a dramatic shift in okay, we're going to go 5 out. Now we're a team that attacks the rim, or we don't have this key player for a long stretch. Someone from the bench needs to step up. Um, you don't approach the all-time wins record without doing it a lot of ways. As you said, great teams win in a lot of ways. So I think that's just part of it. But are any other kind of like stretches of time or like other like adjustments you've seen her make in her coaching tenure here that are similar to what the adjustments she's made now?
Yeah, I mean, the best example I can give you is 2015 when they got Sylvia Fowles in this.
Right. Great one.
They went from a high post offensive team, a lot of slash and a lot of cutting to the rim, to a low post team.
Mhm.
And they had to make that adjustment in the middle of the year. And that's really, really hard to do. Cheryl has always been really good. I mean, so give me a second here. Cheryl's always been really good at adapting. I mean, there are certain things that are absolutes within the league. You have to play defense, you have to rebound.
Yep.
You can't play defense and you can't rebound, you can't play for Cheryl Reeve. And Cheryl's also very demanding. Now,
Hmm.
I mean, folks look at it and say, well, a lot of these big name free agents that they went after didn't sign here. Um, Not everybody wants to be coached hard. Not everybody wants to be held accountable. Not everybody wants a coach who's as demanding as Cheryl is. She's very much an acquired taste, and everybody on the Olympic team, everybody on Team USA, those are all the best players in the league. They all know exactly what Cheryl's about. Some of them clearly don't want to be coached that way, and that's fine. You can go play somewhere else, uh, and they have. I mean, everybody that plays for Cheryl knows that you have to sacrifice a little bit of yourself for the greater good for the team. And again, there are players that don't want to do that. There are players that want their shots. There are players that don't really want to play defense all that well. Uh, and but but that's fine because Cheryl has done so well with players that want to be here, that want to be coached hard, that want to rebound, that want to defend, that want to win.
Hmm.
And there's more than one way to win. We see that all the time in every single sport. But I think that Cheryl has proved, and her staff, and let's not, again, Cheryl doesn't do this alone.
Hmm.
They have proved over the years to be very adaptable. And one thing to get back to your very early point that you made, pretty much every team in the league now has a former Lynx player on it. Have you noticed
Hmm.
that?
Yeah.
Either a former Lynx player on the court or a former Lynx
Yeah.
player in the front office. There's a reason for that. I mean, that's not an accident. Um,
Sure.
those folks know how to win, they know how to play, and they know how to be accountable. Um,
Hmm.
and the fact that so many of the Lynx players from last year um, got max contracts. Um, I mean, I look at Bridget Carlton. I mean, Carlton by did not have a great year last year. I mean, her scoring was way down, her shooting was way down. She's the number one pick in the expansion draft.
Hmm.
Well, there's a reason for that. It's because she's a really, really good all-around player who knows how to win. And they figured that the shooting would come around, and it has. She's been a very nice player now for them. Uh, that's what happens when you come here. And I'm not sure that nationally, I think eventually she will, but I don't think nationally Cheryl and her staff get the credit for
Hmm.
producing the kind of players that they have.
Yeah. This also comes up kind of in, you know, all the teams have either opened brand new facilities. A lot of teams have plans for these, grand, state of the art, shiny new toys. And I think people forget often that the Lynx were the first team, especially of the teams that fall under the same ownership as NBA counterparts that got a facility
That's right.
and had to have the spaces be equal for the Lynx as they are for the Timberwolves. So that
Right.
each team, I think the one thing is the practice court is designed in a way that you can't have both teams actively practicing at the same time. But the Lynx
Well, you
put
could, but it'd be a little messy.
it'd be a
I mean,
little messy and
they've got
yeah.
the little retractable wall that they could put down.
Oh,
So
that's right.
they
Yeah.
technically could, but
It would
they
be noisy in
usually
there.
don't. And they
Yeah.
usually don't.
Right. Even it's noisy enough in there after practice when you're trying to, interview players and players are doing their post practice work and the music's playing and stuff like that. So I can't imagine two full professional basketball teams in there, though it might be entertaining just to the neutral. But yeah, that support staff, they embraced analytics in a way that a lot of teams hadn't done. They've had those support positions in place for a while. And that's, continues. Like they've added, a new they've had, nutritionists and people specialists in that area in the past, and I think they added another full-time dietitian
Right.
this year. I think she's always insisted on making sure like the budget and the support are there for a meaningful and robust support staff.
And
And
that's Glenn Taylor's doing.
mhm,
Glenn Taylor always wanted to do the same for the Lynx that he did for the Timberwolves, and God love him. He was the driving force for a lot of that.
yeah. And yeah, I asked Cheryl. We need to go back, and it was a very interesting conversation. It was one of the availabilities in training camp. You just get 15 days in a row of practice availability. So breaking up the monotony, I did ask about that with this new CBA and there just being more money for all of this. Like not any worry, but just knowing like, okay, teams will have more resources now to put in these places that you may have been the pioneers in putting resources in those places. And she, yeah, acknowledged that as well, but was like, there's always going to be spots to find. And I think they've been great hunters of putting support in good places. They added Rachel Galligan as a full-time international scout
Yeah,
this past offseason. A big part of why, Tony Dallaire is here and she's turning into a really nice player off the bench. I thought she had some of her most impactful minutes in last night's game. So yeah, like Cheryl doesn't do it alone, but I also think, as players, I think Cheryl's pretty good at picking people for responsibility and putting them in positions to have, great success. And I think we're seeing
absolutely.
that with this staff again.
I've had people ask me a lot, and this is before, Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves started making the playoffs again. Um, why were the Lynx so good and the Timberwolves so terrible? I'll wait. I'll let you finish that before I say the next thing because
Okay. Oh
I
yeah, you
want to
don't
spit
want
water in here.
risky time to take a gulp of water. I could see
Yeah,
you rolling, but
yeah. But it's Cheryl Reeve. I mean, the Timberwolves have never had a Cheryl Reeve. I mean, you'll, Flip Saunders never did this. Chris Finch never did this. Pick a name. I mean, they've never had a coach or general manager or someone in both roles
mm,
that is as good and as demanding as Cheryl Reeve. It's that simple.
mhm.
Uh, and that's what it takes. I
Yeah.
mean, uh, San Antonio Spurs aren't as great as they are without Greg Popovich,
Hmm.
you know. And those folks don't just, those folks are really hard to find. And when you get one of them, you don't ever let them leave.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good strategy. And I do think when the ownership change, switched and you know, people who are exclusively Wolves fans were saying, good riddance to Glenn, and people who are maybe exclusively Lynx fans were, worried. And we're looking back at the whole Glenn Taylor legacy, and I'm think Glenn on the Lynx side made probably the greatest hire in sports history, maybe second to this whenever the Spurs hired Popovich. That was definitely way before my time. But you get someone great in that position, you never let them leave and never get in their way. And I,
Yeah,
I think,
the backstory of Cheryl Getting here, I'll just tell this really quick.
oh, love
Um,
this.
Bill Lambier was an assistant coach for the Timberwolves at the time, and Lambier had been the head coach of the Detroit Shock, and Cheryl was one of his
Hmm.
assistants. And I wrote this story for the Philadelphia Inquirer. It probably wouldn't, I probably ought to be easy to find, but if not, there's always the Wayback Machine.
Hmm.
The way it was told to me was that, I mean, Lambier said that he was in Roger Griffith's office every day, browbeating him to hire Cheryl
Yeah.
because Roger was the general manager at the time.
Hmm.
And, Cheryl had only been a head coach in college. She'd been an assistant with a bunch of WNBA teams. Um, Interviewed really impressively, and Roger said, okay. And Cheryl made it very clear from day one that things were going to be different. I remember this. I told Cheryl the story. She didn't remember it, but the first Lynx game I had been to when she was a head coach, um, the teams were coming out for the start of the game, and it was the security guard who was just kind of, how when the teams come out and the security guard is
Hmm.
supposed to hold people back and make sure that everybody, players, and then the coaches can get to the bench.
Hmm.
without an issue.
Yeah.
This guy's not paying attention, not paying attention at all. And
Right.
Cheryl has to like maneuver around a couple of people to get to the bench. And this guy just clearly didn't care. Cheryl turned around and gave this guy a look that could have cut him in half. I have never seen that look from Reeve before. Of course, I don't think I've ever pissed her off that badly. Maybe I have,
Right.
um, but it was a look, and I'm like, oh my God, there's definitely a change around here. I mean,
Hmm.
that what that told me is that any of the usual sexist, we don't care nonsense was never going to play.
Hmm.
That she wasn't going to put up with it. And I thought, now remember, she's from, she's Air Force brat, so she lived in a lot of places, but went to high school, South Jersey, went to college in Philly. You grew up in that area.
Hmm.
I mean,
Not Minnesotan for her.
right.
Yeah.
There's no BSing around if you grew up in that area.
Hmm.
Um, and that was the thing that convinced me right off the bat that this team had a chance to be really good.
Yeah. Well, and she said it a bunch too while there's all this, oh, look at the WNBA now and how much it's grown conversation. And like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's a good thing generally, but people kind of skate over the fact that it wasn't treated professionally for a long time, and by people in power. And it's like, yeah, if you treat
Yeah.
it professionally and invest and treat it with respect, then of course it gets big and grows as it should. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been on this beat long enough to remember when the Lynx practiced at Lifetime Fitness.
Mhm.
And the one in the basement of the Target Center,
Yeah.
where they were walking to practice alongside a bunch of schmoes in headbands,
Hmm.
and crappy sweatshirts. I've been around long enough. The year that and they were doing renovations in Lifetime Fitness, they were practicing all over the place. They were practicing in high schools. They practiced at Cristo Rey High School one day, and Maya Moore is staying after practice forever, just signing autographs for kids. Um, they
Wow.
practiced at uh, Minnesota Technical College down the street where Jay Pivick
Mhm.
used to coach.
Yeah.
They were all over the place, um, and that was during that championship period. Uh, there were all kinds. I think was it you I was telling the Maya Moore story to last night, or maybe it was Cassidy. The first big sit down interview I did with Maya, I think was for the New York Times. She was a second year player. We're in the old press room, and there had been something that had gone on the night
Oh
before
yeah. You
there.
were you were
Yeah,
telling
okay,
me
I
this.
wasn't
Yep.
even telling
But tell
some,
it to the listener though, because it's incredible.
yeah, there was some auction or whatever thing that was, I think it was a Fox Sports North thing or whatever it was, but they hadn't emptied the trash cans. So we're doing this interview, and probably 10 feet away from us is an enormous trash can that, of course, has leftover food in it, and
Hmm.
there are flies buzzing around. And Maya's very thoughtfully answering questions and just picking flies out of the air like this. You and I pick flies out of the air, we never get one. Maya got like six in a row. And this is while she's answering, being very, very thoughtful and very cerebral about the way she's answering these questions. And I'm sitting there and going, what the hell is wrong with this picture? Well, what's wrong
Yeah.
with the picture is the trash can on the flies, not mine.
Right.
But that's kind of the deal. Back in the day, that's how it was. Can you
Hmm.
imagine what would happen if there was one of those trash cans in the Lynx locker room on a game day?
Right. Yeah. Or if they're making Olivia Miles do interviews in a place with trash
Yeah,
cans from days ago, like,
yeah,
yeah.
things have changed a lot and all for the better.
Yeah. And I mean that is a testament to just her, or the attention to detail, and just there will be a standard, and she talks
Sheer
about it all the
force,
time.
all of that and sheer force of will.
Yep, absolutely. I can't imagine how hard it must have been for her to like push through some of those where you maybe assembled the best team in the world at that time, winning championships, and not having the consistent place to practice, or not even have security keeping people out of in the way of the bench, which should be, bare minimum
Yeah, there was a
professional
lot
basketball standards.
there was a lot of stuff that went on that, I tell people and they look at me like I'm insane.
Hmm.
But that's the way it was.
Yeah.
Uh, it may still be that way in some cities.
Yeah. On this is also kind of unfair to put a young player like Olivia Miles after 12 games like into the conversation with, Maya Moore, but in terms of we've now got to talk to Olivia a lot, and she's and WNBA media policy with there being no open locker rooms, they have to bring two players to the post game press conference. It's usually just kind of two players who, by the eye test, had kind of the best game, and that's been Olivia a lot this year.
Yeah.
And I think maybe she's sick of us now, but I don't think she's shown that. And maybe if she keeps doing this for 5 years, I'm sure she will be. But the confidence that radiates off Olivia is pretty, noticeable. But she has a pretty impressive harness on it for such a young person. There's definitely a maturity there, and I wasn't on the beat when Maya was a rookie, but I was paying attention. I'm reading your stuff, watching interviews, and things like that. And is there any I guess the similarities to the cerebralness that they kind of approach that part of the job with?
Yeah, Maya was always very thoughtful and very intentional. She measured every word very carefully. And that was because she had been in the public eye for a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
school, playing at UConn. I mean, she did I mean, UConn has the largest traveling media party of any women's basketball team. Uh,
Mhm.
and so she was very used to dealing with the media a lot.
Yeah.
She was, uh, again, locker room, Maya was always available. She was always sitting there. She was always accountable. I can remember one time in all the years that she played here, and it was the last year when she was struggling, was the only time that she's struggling and she was hurt and then didn't come out and talk to us. One time in eight seasons, which is phenomenal.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, but I can remember, Maya was always at the locker, generally both feet in a tub of ice
Mhm.
and ice bags on both knees. That was because she always did it sometimes as a precaution and sometimes because she was hurt. Uh, but she was always there. She always talked. She'd always answer your questions. She was always very thoughtful, very intentional. Olivia seems a little more playful.
Mhm.
Um, Again, Jersey girl. So she's and played at Notre
Yeah,
Dame.
she was thrilled when I think the first press conference you asked a question and she could hear the accent.
Yeah, well, yeah,
All these Minnesotans around, finally some East Coast grit I can relate
yeah.
to.
Well, I'm not sure that's going to get me very far, but see. But the thing is that there's, at Notre Dame, she had to be that person too. I mean, she
Yeah.
had to talk to the media a lot because Notre Dame gets covered a lot,
Mhm.
and so she just seemed really comfortable right out of the gate. And I wrote about this that there
Mhm.
was, I mean, you were there for this, the game earlier this year where it's her and Howard. And she walks in and announces how cold the press room is. And for those of
Mhm.
you who've never been in the press
It's
room,
so cold. It's
they keep
freezing.
it like an ice box, all right, which is fine, particularly in July.
Mhm.
It wasn't July yet. Anyway, and she walks in, she's in a tank top and shorts. Well, of course you're going to be cold. Um, and then sits down and starts playing with Natasha Howard's ear. And Howard looked at her, like, what's wrong with you? Uh, I can't imagine any rookie being that comfortable
Right,
with
with their
a 13-year veteran to do that. And then you probably saw the video. It was on social media where Miles comes out of a game and Collier, goes to dap her up, and Miles bends over and unties one of her shoes.
yeah.
I, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
It may be a thing now because
Right.
I'm older than everybody, but I
Hmm.
thought there is somebody that's pretty comfortable and
Yeah.
and 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 pretty comfortable not only in her own skin, but being around all these veterans. And I thought,
Yeah.
all right, okay. And it's comfort that I don't think, I'm not sure Maya was that comfortable this soon, just because
Sure.
there was so much pressure on her. I
Yeah.
remember talking to her one time and multiple times, and the theme was always how hard it was to be Maya Moore, and it wasn't, in a woe is me or in an egomaniacal thing, but it was just kind of statement of fact.
Hmm.
And I remember her just saying about how it's so hard to be great every night.
Hmm.
And I can't imagine what that pressure must be like. Because if you have an off night, there are now 10 of us asking, hey, what happened? Well, I
Hmm.
had an off night. It happens. Uh, she mentioned about being in playing overseas in Taiwan, and she was making probably $1 million or close to that. Only American on the team. No one
Hmm.
else speaks English. And the pressure on her was she had to have a double double every night, or else the crowd was upset, the team was upset, the coach was upset. That's a lot of pressure for anybody.
Yeah.
And she talked about that a lot. If
Hmm.
if Miles doesn't seem to be feeling that kind of pressure yet,
Yeah.
she seems very, very comfortable with everything that's going on with her teammates, with the game. Um, but of course, everything's going great. Um,
Yeah.
there'll be a day, like I mentioned earlier, where she's going to have a rough time and she's going to have to come in and answer questions.
Yeah.
And that's part of the deal too. So,
Hmm.
but I guess the main answer to your question, if we're comparing, if doing the really unfair
Hmm.
comparison of Maya to Olivia, is as Olivia seems a little more comfortable, a little faster.
Yeah. For sure. And more so for, listener, obviously this anything you do in sports media these days is risk of getting clipped and it's like, oh, this asshole's comparing this rookie to this Hall of Famer or whatever. But I think a very Olivia's been very impressive just as a person, off the court. I think you mentioned Dean of the Beat, Charles Hallman earlier, who asked a great question about how Minnesota's also been this, epicenter of social justice and injustices and what Olivia feels about being, selected to a market that has dealt with this off the court. And she gave a great answer to that and
Yeah.
was, if she wasn't prepared for it, she was perfect on her feet with that. And, didn't dance around anything. And it's like, oh, this is a very well adjusted, 23-year-old. Cheryl's mentioned it a couple times, daughter of two engineers,
Yeah.
uh, analytical, intelligent people. And I think you feel that in all the ways, but also definitely the confidence to be a rookie and untie Fee's shoes, or kind of just, be given, yeah, just give it Natasha Howard a hard time after, Natasha Howard is a 13, 14-year player with 3 championship rings and a defensive player of the year to boot. Like, give her some grief in the media room. So yeah, I think it's unfair to compare all players are their own people and everyone's different, but just it seems like a cheat code for her to just be this good at every part of the off-court stuff this fast. But as you mentioned, she hasn't had to really do that after a tough day. Um, I believe you're at the home opener, and then in that room after that, she like I remember Courtney Williams putting her arm around Liv and just being like, "It's gonna be fine. We got 43 more of these." And
Yeah.
Liv now recalling on it, she's like, "Yeah, I took that first loss really hard." She kind of sat there even after the required time was over and we'd asked all our questions, just sort of studying the box score, seeing if she could find the answer to what went wrong and what was the difference
Yeah.
in that 1 point loss.
Yeah.
So
And
she's
I
just a
think
very interesting person.
yeah, I think she even asked if she could keep it, you know.
Yeah, she was like, yeah, can I take
Like
this? I'm like,
they didn't do this for you in Notre Dame?
right.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, all right. Yeah, there's, you know, keep in mind that, I mean, I'm always, I asked Cheryl about this one time, and just what, before every draft, all right, they kind of narrow down who they're looking at. And
Mhm.
they go out, usually it's Cheryl and one of the other coaches. They'll go out watch this player at practice, watch them play a game, do interviews. They want to know everything about these players to see whether or not they're going to be good fits. And if
Hmm.
it's somebody that's not a good fit, they'll make a pick that some of us scratch our heads about. I mean, I think Cheryl kind of last night when she was talking about this, and that there are some players that are just not good fits for the Lynx. And she used the line, and this one really stuck with me. And I don't have it written in front of me, but
Hmm.
the paraphrase it, the gist was, if your personal brand is more important than the Lynx brand, then this may not be the place for you.
Hmm.
And I thought of somebody right away, and I thought it was Angel Reese.
Hmm.
And again, Cheryl's never told me this. No one in the Lynx organization has ever told me this. This is just me as an outsider looking in. But I think it would not have surprised me if in the homework they did about Angel Reese, if Angel had said, by the way, I need a day off from training camp to go to the Met Gala in New York. Um, I would imagine, and again, I don't know if that conversation happened. I'm just guessing here. But
Right.
if that conversation happened, I would think to myself that would probably be a deal breaker.
Yeah.
And for all the criticism they've gotten for not taking Angel, if you go back and look at and taking Peely instead, and Peely obviously didn't work out. Certainly isn't a WNBA player yet, maybe someday. But then if you look at all the machinations, the trades, and all the different exchanges of draft choices,
Hmm.
all those exchanges led the Lynx to the opportunity to pick Olivia Miles.
Hmm.
So if you want to say, and again, it's early, but if you want to say, well, they should have picked Angel Reese, I would counter with they got Olivia Miles instead. I
Yeah.
think that's a pretty good deal.
And they also got the pick that they used on Ola Kosu,
Yeah,
in
and
that
that's a
too,
good
and
point
that's
too.
that's
And
looking like I
and
don't
we
know
haven't
how
talked.
great it
Yeah,
may.
she's so young,
Hmm.
but
She's
they
she's
now
2 years younger than Miles.
yeah, they are now trusting her
Hmm.
to come into games and play meaningful minutes off the bench, and she's been okay.
Yeah.
Oh, she hasn't. I mean, she had doesn't seem overwhelmed.
Hmm.
Uh, Physically, she seems to be able to handle it. I mean, because you
Yeah.
look at her and you think, maybe she can get pushed around, but not really.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that there's a real possibility that she could be a really, really good piece for them
She had an incredible block
down
last
the
night.
road.
Was that on Enrique? Or it was on someone. I can't remember if it was on an Enrique
The
Gumbawale,
block
but
you're talking about?
yeah, Kosu had an incredible, just like a two-handed eraser kind of block.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that was a really good athletic play and a
Right.
really, really good closeout.
Hmm.
Yeah, she's done some things to earn her
Hmm.
blank,
Yeah.
and I'm really curious to see where that goes
Right.
because they certainly. I mean, if you want to look at one or two of the things that may be issues down the road, they need more consistent production from the bench. Uh,
Hmm.
Offensive production, I think the defense is fine. Uh, and Ola's going to be a part of that.
Yeah, for sure. And then this on like the Angel point too. It's not, negative to acknowledge that you're signing up for a certain kind of media circus anytime you draft someone as famous as Angel Reese
Yeah,
in the year 2024. And does that outweigh the risk of drafting someone who might be redundant with your best player in Afisa Collier as they play the exact same position? And then also with the offensive
yeah, that's it.
limitations, which are
That's the
still
other.
there.
I don't mean to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but that's the other
Yeah.
thing that people forget is that they play the same position.
Yeah.
So
One of them is out of position if they're playing together.
right, Angel would not have gotten meaningful minutes behind Collier. Of course, you couldn't anticipate that Collier was going to get hurt.
Hmm.
And who knows what would have happened after that, but she wasn't going to play right away.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people forget that.
Right. I think it's a decent trade, but a lot of people don't like to think about the whole scope of it. They just like to look at the names Angel Reese and then Alyssa Peely right after that and jump to conclusions.
Yeah, and
But
you know what? You got to say what it is. I mean, it was mean, the harshest thing to say is that it was a wasted pick. I mean, they took a shot. She was a really good offensive player and
Hmm.
and a good 3-point shooter. But she wasn't quick enough to contribute here. And
Hmm.
maybe she will be one day. I mean, there's a there are a lot of players that are currently in the league who, got drafted and banged around a while in Europe and maybe
Hmm.
needed 4 or 5 years to develop their games, and then they come back here and they're good.
Yeah.
And one thing,
Lana Smith, prime
yeah,
example.
right. Oh yeah. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
he got cut from the Australian national team.
Yeah.
Uh, and then had to and then Sandy brought her back for the Olympics, and then she was a really good player for them. Um, that's yeah. So I mean, that's a great example of someone that needed a few more years uh, to really it really made the progress in their game and then came in and contributed. And maybe that's what happens with Peely.
Yeah.
Uh, so we'll see. I mean, she certainly had the work ethic. So
Yeah. Yeah. I hope so. I'd love to see Peely back in the league.
yeah.
Um, Pat, obviously we could go down memory lane and tell more stories all day, but we're at an hour. I want to be mindful of your time. I'll have you back again for sure.
Okay.
To talk more in depth, but thanks so much for this. And then just as we sign off here, um, Lynx fans who listening to this show got to know where to find you and support your work. But just in case any of them don't, where can they find all of your written stuff on the
Yeah,
team?
I'm writing exclusively now for minpost.com, just like it sounds.
Hmm.
There's no paywall. Okay, so you can just click all the
Excellent.
stuff. It's Minpost is a nonprofit, and if you like what you read around there and want to kick us a couple of quid, we'd be very grateful.
For sure. Then are you on social media anywhere?
Yeah. I'm for the time being still on Twitter. It's and also on Blue Sky.
Mhm.
Uh, BORZMN is probably the easiest way to find me there.
Great.
I tweet about a lot of different things, including baseball.
For sure.
Uh, but
Yeah, so
that's but I,
for,
and I appreciate the time. I
for sure.
appreciate the questions. Appreciate the invitation, and let's do this again sometime.
For sure. So frustrated Twins fans for sure. Interact with Pat on
Yeah,
social because
that'd be
it'll make you
another
feel
hour.
better for sure.
Yeah,
Twins optimism. Look elsewhere. Thanks again, Pat. And yeah, I'll see you in our frigid media room again very soon.
absolutely. Thanks, Terry. Good luck.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Pat.
All right.
All right. Thank you once again to my guest, Pat BORZI, Pat the Bat. Be sure you are following him on all social channels and reading all of his work at MinPost if you are not already. Thanks so much for all the time, Pat. We're for sure going to be doing this again. Can't wait to pick Pat's brain more on those early days, the championship years, and how much media has changed in the years since then. Thank you, as always, to our presenting sponsor, Nate Pentz, and the entire team at Pentz Homes, and for all of the sponsors we have at Hitting the Hardwood, Firehawk Construction, Better's Edge, and Homage Apparel. Shout outs to you. This Hitting the Hardwood Patreon community keeps growing, y'all. If you're not in yet, you're missing out, I promise. So check us out on Patreon. Check out all of the work that Mitchell, Andrew, and all of our new contributors are doing right now at hittingthehardwood.com. Thank you all so much for being a part of it. And as always, thank you, dear listener, for rocking with me on another episode of Lynx Happy Hour, the podcast where Lynx basketball is always on special. I will be in Vegas for this big game between the Lynx and the defending champion Las Vegas Aces. Will the Lynx win by 53 points in Vegas again? Probably not. But hey, who knows? It's a funny game, basketball, crazy things happening. But I will not be betting on that. I don't think it's a likely thing to happen twice. But yeah, stay tuned to all the stuff we got going on at Hitting the Hardwood at the 9 Sports. And I will see y'all again next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Peace.